All right, welcome back everybody to the next video where a question was asked to me today, which was, I would like to create an object when pressing a button that spawns in front of my character, but I want this item to be able to damage enemies while only lasting for a certain amount of seconds, and I want it to automatically turn off after a certain amount of seconds. So I said, okay, we can make that happen. And my solution was, as you see, I posted up there. I said, why don't we create an event that destroys the object? And then what's going to happen is when we press a button to spawn that object in, let's create a delayed response. Let's use the timer to call said event after a certain delay. So if we create an event that destroys the object, right? We're going to create an event that destroys this object. Let's call that event after like whatever that delay is. Let's say you say 3 seconds, right? We'll call that after 3 seconds, right? So here's how this video is going to work. One, I'm going to just start off by showing the solution, right? And then after that, I'm going to show why I used global variables instead of alternate variables. And then I'm actually going to do a dive into the background timer system and show you why I didn't use that as well. So actually that's going to be my number 3 right there, right? So this is very informative right here, and this might help you in the future. So if you're like really impatient, one, I'll show you the solution and then you can just move on. But then if you would like to learn about how it works, how the system works, these right here, I'm going to deep dive into that. So let's go ahead and let's get to it. Here is the solution. So what I did was I created this object, it's an active object, right? So let's say this was the player, for example, right? And let's just press play. When I press a button, I would like to spawn something. In this case, I think the button was G. And after a certain amount of time, in this case, I said after a certain second, 1 second, it disappeared, right? And that's exactly what they wanted. So the code looks something like this. Upon pressing G, if a certain value is 0, it'll spawn the object. It'll fire the event destroy mod after 1 second, right? And when I press G, it sets a global value to an on timer. So let's start from scratch here, right? Like, how did I set this up? So what you're going to want to do is in your game, you're going to, after you have your objects in here that you want to use, go to your game, go to your global values, and create a global value. I called mine mod is spawned, right? You can call yours whatever. So I create a global value called mod is spawned if you want to copy me. So next up, we want to do a few things. Number one, we want to make sure that when we press a button, that mod, and in this case, I'm going to use G, that mod is spawned. So over here, we're going to create a new object, right click. This is what we want to get spawned, and it's going to be relative to our player in this case. And it doesn't matter exactly where it is relative to that. Actually, we should probably go back and edit that because we want it spawned somewhere off of the player, right? And let's test the system, F7, and we'll press G, and it's spawned, and it's in, and it's good to go. Perfect. Now, the next thing we want is that we want it to destroy, right? So let's create an event. And so what we're going to do here is we're going to click the timer, and we're going to say on event, right? This is how we create a condition. And we're going to call it destroy mod. Okay? So this is how you create events. That right there is what we would like to happen, right? So we're creating an event, we're calling it something, we're naming it, and we're saying what are the results of this event. So for us, it's simply destroy this object, right? But if we play it, that doesn't get called yet at all. So nothing's going to happen. If we press play, we press G, it's still going to stay there. What we would like is to call this event after a certain time, and then cause it to destroy. And that's what this is going to be here for. So we're going to right click, and we're going to fire an event after a given delay. And so the delay is going to be 1 second. And we're going to we have to come over here. We have to type in the name of the event, and the name of the event was destroy mod. Good to go, right? Boom. Good to go. Press G, and after 1 second, it spawns. So the problem with this is that if I continuously press G, you get something like this happening, right? So this is where you start looking into like the debugging. People are going to just spam that button so that way they continuously have that thing going, right? And it kind of, you know, ruins the system. So what the solution is to come up with a global variable. So that way, as long as this is true, we can't spawn anything else. And if it's false, we can spawn it. So is the mod spawned? Nope. All right, well then let's spawn it, right? And while it's spawned, it has a value of 1 here. So this is where over here, let's go ahead and let's do it. Upon pressing G, what we're going to do is we're going to change that global value to 1. So now I can't spawn anymore is the idea, right? So because it's spawning, because we're setting it to 1, the idea is we have to use that, not spawn anymore. So over here, we have to right click and insert, and we have to check against a global value. If that global value is 0, so this is like an AND statement here. If I press G and that value is 0, we're going to create this thing, we're going to fire this event, and we're going to set that global value to true, basically to 1. So then once that event happens, it'll be destroyed. But there's an issue with that. If we just stay like this, right, it doesn't really fix the problem. And something else occurs. I can't spawn anymore. I'm pressing G. Listen. So like I'm pressing G, but nothing's happening. Well, that's because that global value is still 1. So we have to fix that. We're going to go over here. So when this thing happens, we're also going to change a global value as well. Once we call this expression, we're going to reset it back to 0. So that way, once this is destroyed, it resets that value back to 0. You'll see that global value gets back, goes back to 0 as well. And I don't have that issue anymore persisting. And bada bing, bada boom, that's the solution to their problem. And they can do whatever they want after that. So the main video is over. You're good. If you liked it, if it helped you out, go ahead, like, subscribe, guys, help us out. I'm going to go into a little bit more, though. So why do I use a global variable instead of an alternate variable, right? And that's what I pulled up this for, right? Don't worry about this just yet. So, and this one right here, you'll see that I have a very similar, if not the exact same looking setup. The only difference is that for this guy, I set the global variable here. For this one, because I use an alternate variable, I set it here, right? Now, if the problem with alternate variables, and let's go ahead and let's play this. All right, I'm going to go ahead and pull. You see that the mod object is still here. You see that it has, you know, mod is spawned here at 0. When I press a button G, it's going to spawn in. It's going to load. It's going to destroy after 1 second. Perfect. Everything seems fine. When I'm pressing G, nothing's happening anymore. So what happens is, internally, when this game is destroying an object, it completely destroys it from the scene. Now, I have it preloaded in the scene, right? It's just off the frame, so you can't see it, which is why it populates here. But when I press G, it destroys. I can't even find that object anywhere to be referenced at all. So it can't locate that item. It can't locate that value. So because it can't locate that value, it won't let me continue with this line of code because this object, this mod, no longer exists in the scene. So this says, well, this is false because that's no longer true. That's why we use a global value, because global values persist across the scene regardless. Now, you could say, well, what if I use the alternate variable for active? I guess I could. I could say something like, I could put that here, you know, object, a mod spawned. Right? I can change something else, and I can add an alternate variable to that one. And instead of using this one over here, I could set mod spawn to 1, and on event we are going to go ahead and change that alternate variable back to 0, and we're going to destroy it, right? And this actually would persist, as I think this would be a viable solution. Right? Oh my goodness, but look at that though. It's not working. Why? Even though we have an alternate variable, mod mod spawned. Oh, you know what? I forgot to change this right here. Let's edit that. Let's change it to this guy's alternate variable mod spawned. Oh, let's delete that. Give me a second. Have an idea. We're executing the idea. And yeah, now it should work. Yep. And it does work now. Right? So alternate variables do work, except you have to put them on an object that's going to persist in the scene that will never be destroyed. Or you could just make a global variable for it and just let it go. So if your player NPC in your game, if this was your NPC and it's no matter what going to persist, then keep it. But understand that when you put an alternate variable on an object that gets destroyed, you can't use that in coding in the future because it won't be able to find and locate that object. Now, let's go to another solution that I kind of looked at. You know, and I was like, all right, well, what if we just use the system's built-in timer? So this is like another educational aspect of this video, right, for Fusion. So let's go ahead and let's play this frame, right? If you notice that there's a timer up here and it automatically starts. So that's cool, right? You can use this in the game itself. So that way when a scene loads, you could say when the timer hits a certain value, spawn a certain enemy, or the game is over or something, right? So this is like one of those games where like you just have to last a certain amount of time in order to win. And you could use that in-game timer to help you out. So what I did for this one was, well, I could use that timer. So I said upon pressing G, what we're going to do is we're going to reset that timer back to 0. And then once that timer equals 1 second, we'll just destroy that object. So what it looks like on this end, boom. Perfect. And every time I press G, you'll see the timer goes to 0, and after 1 second, it destroys. Couple issues. If I continuously press G, same thing occurs. Boom. The timer keeps resetting. Now, you could say certain things like, you could put like alternate variables in here and global values to do what we did over here. That could work. However, there's a much larger issue at hand because this is very short-sighted. So if you have a very short, simple, easy game and you really only need one or two, like one thing for the timer, then go ahead and do it. But what happens when you have multiple objects that you want to spawn in? So like in this case, if I press G, I would like my object in front of my character to spawn. So whether this is an like a spinning saw or an electrical beam or something that spawns, or a trap that spawns, right? Whatever you want this to be, that's cool. And you can see the timer disappears. But what if you also would like another buff, like a shield buff, for example, but you want that shield buff to last longer than the other buff, right? So like you want these two things persisting because you're getting multiple buffs on your character. You're getting an offensive and a defensive buff. Well, if both of them in this code do the same thing where upon pressing a button, I reset that timer, and then once that timer hits a value, it destroys those objects, what's going to happen is it's going to continuously reset that timer, and it's going to give you a longer delay before that object explodes, right? So like, for example, I want it so that way no matter what, after 3 seconds, this thing only lasts 3 seconds, right? 1, 2, 3. But if we were to fire, keep looking at here, this bullet, it resets the timer, and this is going to basically continuously give us a shield button, right? No matter what. And now this actually leads to different mechanics. You could actually say, I'm just gonna make a game that messes with the timer no matter what. Like, this allows me to have more skill. If I'm always applying this buff at the right time, I can continuously keep this shield going. That's great and all, but like, eventually you're gonna want to make sure that, you know, your code, you know, only affects one thing at a time. So that way, when you have a much larger game, you've put more mechanics into it, that they don't start all like affecting each other. You want to try to stay with like the singularity principle, which is like you want this thing to do one thing, right? So like that's why I believe this is the best way to go, where you create an event and then you call that event, and only this right here will call that one singular event over here, and it won't mess with anything else. So yeah, I hope the video was informative. I hope it helps you out. I hope it taught you something. Yeah, hit like, subscribe, and if you have anything that you would like in the future as a video, drop it in the comments. I'll load it up, and we're good to go. Take care, everybody.